Hello again, back for another colored pencil evening, working on our cute little adorable kitten. So I'm going to make sure everything is set up and that I'm not echoing. Let's see. Okay, I don't think I am. I don't think I am. Okay. All right. Gotta love tech, you know? Okay. So tonight, what I'm going to do is I prop this up a little bit so that I could actually see it a little bit easier as I'm working on this. And I'm just going to dive right in and start using the white again. I've got my photograph right next to me so I can have a good look at it as I'm working. And also have my kneaded eraser so I can take away a little bit more of the chalk because I laid it out with the chalk and I don't want to have any of that showing around the edges. So I mentioned last night I am working, or the last video, I am working on Pastelmat. And Pastelmat is one of many types of papers that you can certainly work on. And I find it doesn't have as much tooth as I'm used to, but I think that's going to work out okay. Now I'm only working on this when I'm recording it, so I didn't work on it at all in between videos. And you can catch the other video on my YouTube channel or in Facebook, either one. And what I like to do as I'm working around the different areas, and I jump all around. I absolutely jump all around. I like to kind of get a base down. So I'll come around and work on just building up that base. I'm not terribly worried about any of the details just yet because when it comes time to differentiate where some of the darker versus lighter strands of the fur are, I'll be very deliberate on how I'm putting that down. But for right now, all I'm doing is just looking where are there areas of super light value and where are the darker values. And I'm using this paper as the middle ground so that I can kind of base that on what's going to be lighter and what's going to be darker. Because just by varying the pencil pressure will give me a good idea as to what the values are going to be. So I can, the harder I push down when I'm doing a white animal, the harder I push down, obviously, the lighter that the animal will be. But if I'm working on a black dog, for example, I would want to be pressing down really hard with the black so that it doesn't end up being a gray dog. But I am going to come back in here and I'm going to use the colors of French gray in order to, the colored pencils of French gray in order to give this little kitten some darker areas. Just going to move my photo just a little bit so I can see as I'm working. And it's really important. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll have the reference photo on my phone. And so I'll be able to look at my phone as I'm working and I have it just perched up in front of me. But obviously, I can't do that tonight. So I'm just going to come around. I just don't want to see this edge when I'm looking at the finished piece. So coming around. And again, creating those values. I absolutely love how relaxing it is to be working on a portrait like this. Some people like to draw just in their sketchbooks, and I like to do that too. I definitely like to do that too. But there are times where I just want to get lost in the whole process of creating. And so what I like to do is have a piece. I haven't started it yet. I have a horse portrait that I'm going to begin tomorrow. I'm just going to sharpen this so it's going to make some noise. This is so cool. Isn't this neat? My favorite sharpener. And I just get lost. You just get into the creative zone of which colored pencils am I going to pick? How am I going to achieve the look that I'm going for? I recently had someone comment online that I'm not a real artist because I look at photographs to draw. I didn't bother wasting my time with them. I figure the people who are most jealous of another person's abilities will often find ways to make little digs. And I think that's what this person was doing. So just ignore. So coming back in and putting a little bit more pressure down. I'm just going to lightly put the white down in this area. And again, it's just when you're putting down the fur, you want to try and keep your pencil strokes going in the direction that they are going to head. So in other words, I wouldn't be putting them going across the cat. I want to make sure that it's going with the way that the lines actually head on the cat itself. Now there's a lot of darkness down in through this area. I want to make sure this stays. I lowered my camera, so you're not seeing the entire piece. So if I start working a little too low, I have to make sure I move the artwork. But I wanted it closer up. I wanted you to have a closer look as to my process. I'm going to grab another color. It's my henna. Actually, I'm going to grab henna, nectar. I'm sorry, that was not henna. That was chestnut. I think I may already have henna out. I don't see it. That's all right. So I'm actually I want to jump into the nose area and the lip area. Coming in through here. Adding in, there's a little bit of pinkness, and I want that as my base. Now I'm putting in a much lighter color than the photograph shows because I want that as my base. So when I put the darker color down, it's going to have some of that lightness still showing through. I need that sharper. I cannot stand a colored pencil that's not sharp. See how sharp that is? That's how sharp it needs to be. So as I'm coming in, the kitten's nose really has a lot of darkness on it, but I don't want it solid. It's not a cartoon. So what I'll end up doing is putting down this darker pencil, and there's probably going to be, I don't know, maybe I'll put some brown in there too. I literally think in terms of colored pencil colors. So I could be out, it could be a sunny day. Let's say, during the summertime when the trees are lush and green, and I will look around, and as I'm looking at different trees, I'm like, oh, that would be apple green, or oh, that would be marine green, or kelp green, and then those are colors from Prismacolors. And it's really funny because that's how my brain is wired. That's how I think. So when I look at a photograph now that I'm trying to use, or if I'm, drawing from life, I will think in terms of what colored pencils I would want to be using to recreate what I'm looking at. Let me see, did I grab a brown? I think I have one in here. I have all my colored pencils in this really cute mug. And I don't know if you can see, like right here. Actually, I think I can do it this way. Notice that? It says Magnolia. One of my students, when I was teaching at the high school, one of my students brought back that coffee mug from Texas, Waco, Texas, because one of my favorite places in the whole world is Magnolia, which is Chip and Joanna Gaines. And I got a chance to visit Waco, Texas last summer. I'm really hoping to be able to go back this summer. I'll know on March 1st if that's where an event that I like to go to is going to be happening. So I'm not sure. I have to wait a few more days. But I went to, it was one of those trips that, you just have to go. You just have to do it. And I had a dear friend pass away a year ago. And he lived life to the fullest. And he passed away. And I said, darn it, I'm going to Waco. Because he really, truly embodied that whole, that you want to just grasp life and live it. So I did that. And it was so amazing. I sat, looked at the silos, and just drew them in a sketchbook. So I'm adding in just some of the darker values, and I'm going to end up lightening up certain areas. The photograph, this is one of the things when it comes to photographs, and sorry, I got to sharpen again. Okay. One of the things with photographs is that if we rely super heavy on them, you get more entrenched with trying to reproduce the photograph. Okay. I want to be able to see what the kitten looks like, and I want to be able to focus in on the different nuances of the kitten. So I may leave something out that the photograph had, or I may put something in that the photograph flattened and got rid of. So that's one of the things. And when I first started using photographs to look at as as the references, I was like everybody else and just trying to imitate and replicate what the photograph was telling me instead of trying to go beyond and just create something that was truly beautiful to look at. So, this little kitten has some little rough marks on his nose. I got this beautiful photograph from friend Ashley, who raises all sorts of wonderful animals. And she posted these beautiful pictures of kittens. And I don't know if she kept this one. But this little bugger was so adorable. And she's an incredibly good photographer. So I had to, and I asked permission if I could use her, when she takes really good photos, if I can use them. And I think this is the first one that I'm actually making into something. So just getting more in here. I want to go in with a little bit darker French gray. I don't think I have to do as many layers. Again, I'm experimenting with this paper, and I'm seeing how many layers I can kind of get away with without without having to work on it forever. There were times it would take me multiple weeks. Of course, I wasn't working on things every day, but when I was first learning how to do colored pencil, and there were times it would take forever. Now, what I tell my clients, because I always give myself a window of when when can I get a piece done? And if someone gives me a deadline, and it's a reasonable deadline, I will make sure that they have the artwork by the deadline. But I like to incorporate kind of those times where you don't know if you're going to get sick, you don't know if you're going to be pulled away from a project for something else. So I always give myself some leeway. And also working with a schedule. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going in and I am just beginning to add in some of those darker areas. Again, I'm getting used to this paper. I'm seeing how it handles. I'm not quite sure what to expect. Now I'm creating kind of a range of values so that I can go back in and play with making certain ones darker, lightening up certain areas. I love how it covers the white. I'll be curious to see if I can go back in and darken up certain things, or actually lighten, I should say, with the white. By pushing down harder with the white, I can then get it to be a little brighter. So I'm in the middle of creating a brand new colored pencil course that I will be running beginning March 13th. And it's called Colored Pencil 101, Beginning Basics with a Puppy Portrait. So you get the beginner basics, and then towards the end of the class, we actually create the different features for a puppy, and we work on that for that last week. And it's small, and it's not, it's not overwhelming, but I'm very excited about it. It's going to be the first course I'm offering, and you get a chance to take just the full course as is, or you can bump up and do the VIP version, which is when we meet one-on-one in a Zoom, and I can do a critique of your artwork. I can help you with the puppy portrait we'll be working on. Because in the full course, in the regular course, what we end up doing is we have a Zoom once a week, and we all come together, and you can either submit your artwork ahead of time, and within the group Zoom, we take a look at everybody's work, and we're all, making comments on it. And that is one of the most wonderful opportunities for you to learn how to improve on your artwork, because it really does help when you're creating in a community setting. When I was in the high school classroom, I didn't do enough of the critique times because high school kids don't always have the, when you have like intro level, okay, don't always have the experience or the knowledge of how to properly comment and offer suggestions on work. Every single work that you create can have improvements. Every single work that I still create can have improvements. So no one ever hits a point where, oh my goodness, you've mastered everything. No. Anyone who believes that needs to be working on their ego. So I'm very excited because it really is going to be a very safe atmosphere for people to share and how to share. And I kind of teach you how to do that, how to make comments, because there's a really big difference when you're looking at someone's artwork and just with voice and, intonations, and you kind of go, wow, that's really nice, versus, wow, that's really nice. Same words, same exact words, said with two totally different meanings. So that's one of the things that I like to kind of teach people how to properly kind of address how we look at artwork. So oftentimes what you want to do is you want to sandwich it. You want to have, point out something really positive, and I can pretty much point out positives in anyone's artwork. And then offered, hey, have you thought about how you're going to increase the value over here? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And if I've got the solution, great. Or it might just be, hey, maybe if you try this, I haven't tried it before, but why don't you try doing this? And you just kind of gauge, you gauge the response. Sometimes people, all they want to know is that hey, I finished it, or hey, I got this amount done. And all they want is acknowledgement. They're not looking for feedback. So that's often what you do is you ask, are you looking for feedback on this piece? If not, well, then I think you've done a, fantastic job on this, that, and the other thing, and keep up the good work, So it all depends. And it's not, when somebody offers suggestions, they're not telling you that your artwork sucks, okay? They're not. And if they are, you don't need to listen to that. But we all tend to listen to that last bad comment that someone made. Not the 20 that came before it that were lauding it as being wonderfully done. So, and we all fall into that. I still fall into that. Totally normal. But what I'm excited about in this class is that we're going to have so much fun just creating and I get excited when I see a student grasp a concept and be able to put that concept into play. It's so awesome. When you have them make that breakthrough, like, oh my goodness, they finally get it. And it's just yet another lesson that they can tuck into their knowledge base. This little guy is so gosh darn cute. We used to have cats when I was growing up. And then when I moved out on my own, I got a couple of cats as well. That was before I realized that I was allergic to them. And then we had them, and I was an adult. We had them here. And my son, as it turns out, is EpiPen allergic to them. So I had to banish my poor cats to the basement, which was very sad. But we are dog people now. Hence my love of doing dog portraits. And I simply love my dogs. So I figured we'd change it up. We would do a cat portrait though. And I've got many, many more cat portraits photographs I can be using. So I'm sure we'll do more. So just putting down a little bit more white. I'm going to make sure this can be seen. I'm going to do just a light layering. It really is satisfying as you're working when you can see the portrait just develop right in front of your eyes. But oftentimes I find, it gets to, you get to a certain point, it's like, oh, that's really good. And we tend to stop and think, oh, I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to ruin it. And we have to not be afraid to take the risks with the artwork. We need to be able to go in and say, I'm going to try pushing these values a little bit more. One of the things that my students would often do is they'll hold back. So when they are putting down some of these values, they're holding back, and again, it's not getting dark enough. It was rare when I had a student that went the opposite direction and who just went too dark, too fast. I did have a few, but those weren't as common. And for them, they'd have to just kind of ease up on how hard they were pushing down with the pencils. So again, just getting some darker. And I simply love just adding in the values. I want, that urge for me to start getting into some of the The details is there, but I've got to wait. It's not ready, and I have to establish these values first. And a lot of students will find that the value range that they have just isn't dynamic enough. Now, I like a value range that is a lot of high values. So high, high contrast, if you will. It just creates more interest. Right now, because I work very realistically and I love working realistically, it is my absolute favorite way to work. I'm currently in a children's book illustration course, and I have to decide what style I want my illustrations to take. Do I want to go high realism? Do I want to do kind of a hybrid? And I'm leaning towards kind of a combo. Like they're going to be, no, I'm not into cartooning. That's just not me. So I am leaning towards something that has more of a high value and a high, high contrast. But that is very realistic. Okay, I think we are getting close to ending for tonight. I like to keep these videos around a half hour in length. I think that's a good amount of time. So I think I'm going to stop this little guy here tonight and get a good close-up look. His cute little face. So the next time I come on, I'll be working on adding more of the white and getting more of this fur down here so that we can then head back in and start to work on the details. So thank you for joining me. I'm so glad you were here. If you made a comment, I will make sure I go back in probably tomorrow. And if you watch it on the replay, make sure you put hashtag replay. And I look forward to seeing you next time. So enjoy.